Bill Kogi was born in Chicago, attended Beloit University in Wisconsin, and received a master's degree with a fire management emphasis from the University of Idaho. Bill has worked for the Forest Service and the National Park Service. He is currently a senior fire manager for the National Park Service in Boise, Idaho. In this podcast, Bill Kaage speaks of the importance of learning to use your beliefs, values, and emotions when communicating natural resource management issues.
I would say that there is no area of your life where you don't do sales of one kind or another. And you better be meeting the needs of your wife and communicating your needs to your wife. You better be looking at your relationship with your children and what their needs are, and you communicating your needs to them. You have to do the same thing with your friends and your coworkers, and covering the needs of your job. So I don't think, I think the way you're describing it, you're thinking of it as an economic transaction where you're selling something, and I'm thinking more in the way of selling ideas and selling your, making sure your beliefs and your values and your attitudes are heard and expressed, and I think with age, you get a little more comfortable with the wisdom of age in being able to do that in a self-reflective mode, or with others where you don't feel the judgment that you may feel doing that when you're, when you're 23, 24, 25 years old, and like, God, do I really want to go out there on a limb and express myself in front of these people? I don't think there's any way you can separate your values, which really for the most part are formulated when you're young, living with your parents and your family that you're raised in, and then the beliefs that come out of that, and then the attitudes that come from them. They tie in so much into how you work and live in the world as a human, that to try to separate it from your job, you can't. And I don't think people should be afraid to emote and to share, because it plays into your perspective. And when you look at conflict, and whether it's just a disagreement that you have, all that it is a perception difference. And it helps when you look at it from that standpoint and share where you're coming from. It can help the other individual, just like it's real important to listen and understand their perspective and where they're coming from. And don't be afraid to do that when you're young and coming up. And it takes a while to figure out yourself. I mean, I don't think you really know yourself probably till you're in your 40s. In a lot of ways, you may think you know yourself. You may realize you don't know yourself in your 20s, and you think you're starting to figure it out in your 30s. But I don't think you really know yourself into your 40s. And I suppose if I talked to my mother or my father about it, they would say, "Well, you don't really know yourself, Bill, until you're in your 50s or your 60s. Then you kind of got it figured out." But don't be afraid to look at it from that way and to share and to listen. I'm thinking of emotional intelligence, and there's appropriate ways you should display your emotions, and there's appropriate times to display your feelings. And there's probably the thing that I probably have the hardest time with when I think about it with my family is when it's inappropriate timing to display certain emotions, working with your family and trying to raise children, what have you. And but there's a well of emotion, whether it's fear, anger, happiness, joy, what have you. And they're just emotions, and don't be afraid to use them, because there's appropriate times to use them. But recognize it as a feeling, and you're displaying an emotion, and that's what it is, and you can use that to help convey information, and don't be afraid to do that. But it's something that I would say When my IQ, I may have an idea what my IQ is and feel comfortable with my intelligence. The emotional intelligence is something I think for me is, I don't know, I don't even know what my emotional intelligence is, but it's harder for me to work with and to appropriately convey in all aspects of my life. But don't be afraid to do it.
Bill Kogi says it takes time and experience to be able to comfortably use your beliefs, value, and emotions to deepen your conversation in an emotionally intelligent manner. To begin increasing your emotional intelligence, secure a copy of Daniel Goleman's book, Working with Emotional Intelligence. Goleman interviewed hundreds of workers in both the private and government sectors. His book will help you acquire the competencies Bill Kogi spoke of in his interview to help you better manage emotions when you interact and communicate with people.